Saygıdeğer konuklar, canlı
Distinguished guests and all the attendees from the webcast, ladies and gentlemen,
ülke içinde uçtan uca tasarımı teknik işbirliği projesi.
welcome to the second phase closing ceremony of the design within the country of end-to-end export process via blockchain technology technical cooperation. We first will start with a minute of silence for those that we lost during the recent earthquake. Then we'll have the opening addresses by EBRD, Ministry of Trade and Ministry of Treasury and Finance. Then we will have a project presentation and then Q&A. First, I'd like to invite you all to a 1 minute of silence for those that lost during the recent earthquake.
Avrupa İmar ve Kalkınma Bankası, Türkiye
I
Başkanlığı...
would like to invite Mehmet Üves, Deputy Head of Turkey, EBRD, Head of Ankara Resident Office. The floor is yours. Now we're going through very difficult times, and I first of all would like to express condolences for those who lost their lives. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our closing ceremony. As you all know, today we are together with the second phase closing ceremony of the technical cooperation meeting for design of within the country end-to-end export process via blockchain technology. Actually, we did the planning for 2 years, and in December 2021, we have officially started this technical cooperation project. And the results of the second phase will be shared together with all our attendees. This is actually a pioneer project for digitalization of the export process, and we are more than proud to share it with you. Just opening a parenthesis about EBRD, European Bank of Reconstruction and Development, since it is foundation in 1991, in 37 countries, and after sanctions to Russia, in particular for sustainable economic development, continue to strive with the best efforts at international finance institutions. At the end of 2023, over 6,600 projects and 180 billion euros of financing provided, and a record-breaking 12 billion euros for the recent year. The special economic development of the countries that we are serving is not only concerning the financing, but there are too many issues like competitiveness, resilience, social inclusion, and together with the public and the private sector, we have so many political cooperation as well. Actually, for this very specific project and about the blockchain technology, and this technical cooperation project is also another part what we're doing. You know, pandemics opened up the path for digitalization, and it provided us an impetus. Therefore, digital transformation for our bank is one of the main three strategies of our bank, especially for digital transformation. We actually have a deputy head, and for more contribution to the countries, we also have a specific section for digitalization. Between 2023, 2025, we also have digital transformation, green transformation, and at the same time, inclusiveness. These are the main foci of our strategy. We also have the digital approach that we adopted in all countries that we serve. So as to further support digital transformation, we have decided to give impetus to the other project. We have a strategy document for digitalization, and for digital transformation of the countries that we serve, we just would like to support in particular inclusiveness, therefore both green policies and transformation considered. So we have main three pillars in digital transformation, one being connectivity. EBRD, especially for more connectivity between people and countries, would like to improve wideband technologies. Maybe similarly in Azerbaijan, in the rural areas, for better internet access, we've provided support for investment. The other thing is compliance adaptation, especially for digital transformation and for further innovation. We have consultancy support, investment support, and so many cooperation and collaboration for digital skills. Of course, cybersecurity is another part of it. In the institutions that we provide investment also for cybersecurity, we also take further steps. For green cities, we have smart digital technologies for municipalities, for SMEs, providing support for digital transformation, and e-government also supported. So these are some of the examples of our digital approach. Now, Turkey, after an overall global outlook, as EBRD, in 2009 that we started our activities, and so far we have 396 projects and over 17 million euros. And for 2022, again, we actually, in terms of annual investment, the highest to Turkey. 93% of the investments are for the private sector. Therefore, among all the countries, Turkey is a leader. Also, we have very efficient policies together with the public. And until 2023, we had a Turkey strategy for fiscal and monetary policies, green and knowledge-based technology, and also for social gender equality and social inclusion. We continue our policy. And also the Turkey strategy and global strategy, and of course in line with the priorities of Turkey, with all our public and private stakeholders, we are trying to focus on more value chain and trade processes for SMEs, digital skills. These are some of the areas that we prioritize recently. From production process to all, digital transformation affects all. And one of the major potentials that we can for digital transformation is foreign trade. Of course, with more efficiency increase, and I know that, of course, there will be a project presentation and you will provide us some evidence on this. And of course, we have green economic and transformation, and mainly women and economic contribution for the vulnerable groups. These are the other priorities. In December, as we started, and now we have again our specific project in hand, and this is the very first technical cooperation project for digital transformation for EBRD in Turkey. Together with the ministry, we have this, and therefore it will be so much cost efficiency and also saving from time in terms of all export processes end to end. And there will be also a social benefit, which is for the good of all stakeholders. So many steps will be taken in the future, and that's the start. And of course, mainly our ministry and also to our consulting company, I would like to express my gratitude. This technical cooperation project has too many technical aspects, but we also have the legal framework and the good governance issues. And I know that this provides us a wide policy perspective, and we aim to continue with all the stakeholders. Of course, the export processes and transferring to the blockchain technology will not only help us to simplify the process, but there will be paper-free trade, which also will contribute to green transformation and climate change. At the same time, there will be less physical movement, and mainly for the SMEs and for the disadvantaged group, there will be more contribution to the foreign trade, so we will have a more sustainable ecosystem of export. From this perspective, from the very first design to the implementation of the project, those who contribute to all the stakeholders meetings, and for all the framework institutions, also for the financiers, the Ministry of Treasury and Finance, I in particular would like to thank them. So welcome again. So that's the end of my opening address. Thank you.
Teşekkür ederiz Sayın Başkanım.
Thank you very much. Now, Ministry of Treasury and Finance, Director General of Foreign Economic Relations, Kerem Dönmez, will be taking the floor. Yes, please. So we've been through a recent disaster, earthquake, and we are really very sorry for all the loss that we have. And I would like to express my deepest sorrow for those who lost their lives and who for the casualties and who lost their homes, but it all will be recovered and compensated for soon. First of all, very distinguished attendees, the representatives of the EBRD and the Ministry of Trade, I would like to extend my regards to all of you. So in this second phase closing ceremony of the design of end-to-end export process via blockchain technology. You know, especially recently, our country has taken so many breakthroughs, and especially for blockchain technology, is contributing a lot to the Turkish economy. Under the partnership of our ministry, with the financial support of EBRD and the Ministry of Finance and Treasury and Finance, and I'm sure that it will have a significant contribution to the Turkish economy. EBRD, thank you very much as one of the supporters of the project. But just open a parenthesis. Since 2009, EBRD has been acting in our country, and so many important projects are on the way with the bank. EBRD, especially via the private sector, always focusing on our priorities for development, and one of the major parties that we have. And our relations with EBRD actually has taken to another level since 2018. And both our relations with the bank and is important, but at the same time, for more contribution of the bank. And together with EBRD, we have too many activities, and we focus on the employment of the young people and the women. And just like this project that we are together here for, we have too many high technology projects. As the Ministry of Treasury and Finance, we are always providing full support to EBRD, to too many projects. And together with the Ministry of Trade, and this is also another major project that we have. We are more than happy to provide financial support for this project. And with the end of the second phase, under the pioneership of our Ministry of Trade, there will be 2 minute deliverables of this project, and it's going to have a huge contribution for all the stakeholders. Very distinguished guests, especially recently, there is actually an impetus in technology transformation. And as you all know, there are so many new tools. What is important is more reliable and faster flow of information, which is also simplifying the processes also in the public. Digitalization is also changing the landscape of finance. Especially, we have more digital tools in finance world, and which provides more opportunities for all the stakeholders, also brings along too many opportunities. Blockchain technology is another important one. As you all know, after the pandemic, too many innovative approaches, and also it's very important for the storage of information. This is an infrastructure, and it is at the core of a reliable and secure digital transformation. You know, we have more and new uses of the blockchain technology. Until 2026, there will be $67 million worth of blockchain technology that is being estimated for. So in a very short run, by too many technology users, it will be used more and more. That's going to be a more commonly used tool. Helps to reduce costs so as to shorten the process time, and at the same time for more reliability and security. So also it is facilitating the export, especially foreign trade. Compliance is important. There are also logistic issues which is facilitated by this way, and these are some of the deliverables of the project. And it's a special end-to-end design of this process. It's important to have such an approach. So the financial intermediaries are also a part of this project, and our central bank at the same time has some of the activities for the digital currency. So it's very important to use new tools because like the Banking Regulatory Authority, the Central Bank of Turkey, will also be a part of this process, which is important also for the recent future, for the near future. There's also legislative framework that is ongoing. From this perspective, the Ministry of Industry and Technology has a technology-oriented industrial breakthrough. And via the SME authority, we also have certain projects, including our general approach, which all will contribute to productivity. Now, in terms of digitalization, of course, we would like to move forward as a country. Especially some of the pioneer institutions with the EBRD is so important because they are also technology driven. And at the same time, blockchain will hopefully be used not only in export processes, but in the later. And of course, in concluding my opening address, I hope it will be good for all stakeholders as a part of this project.
Thank you very much, Mr. DG. Now we are moving to the Ministry of Trade, DG for Exports. Mr. Mehmet Ali Kılıçkaya will be taking the floor for the opening remarks.
Sayın Hazine ve Maliye Bakanlığı Dış Ekonomik İlişkiler Genel Müdürü,
Mr. Director General from the Ministry of Treasury, distinguished representatives of EBRD and members of the Ministry of Trade, academia, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. On behalf of the Ministry, our Directorate General has been running the project, as you know, and we would like to welcome you all to the second phase closing meeting of the project. Unfortunately, this meeting coincides with one of the major earthquake disasters in our history ever. I would like to start my words by expressing my condolences to the families and relatives of our people who have lost their lives. Our ministry has been investing some time and also some money in the use of evolving technologies in foreign trades by way of various projects and works. Particularly, technologies such as blockchain is considered to be one of the most critical technologies evolving not nationally only, but also globally. Our ministry has considered various projects to contribute and make possible the use of such technologies in our daily lives. Digitalization has been accelerated during the time of the pandemics, making sure that this market has enlarged and paved the way for new opportunities in international trade. For instance, financial assets created on blockchain and smart contracts that make the background for these activities yielded $254 million of revenues, and we are also forecasting this amount to grow in avalanches. New technologies such as blockchain make sure an easy track of the procedures and also contribute to the supply chain because of their digital nature. Thanks to these features, from customs procedures to logistics and financing of the procedures in all aspects and levels of trade, it becomes possible to provide management with better costs. Now, the project that we are here to close about together is a good evidence for that. As you know, design of end-to-end export process via blockchain technology project that has been the reason why we have come together was started in December 2021, and the first phase closing took place in July 2022. Actually, we analyzed the road transport and also provided a demonstration of that in July. As for the second phase of the project, electronic customs clearance documentation and certificates, in other words, simplified customs declarations, are considered as a part of the microtrade, which has become also the subject of our project in the second phase. In this way, this time we analyze the air transport of the process. E-trade has always been one of the priority areas of our ministry. The share of e-trade within our exports is 1.3, and our target by 2030 is 10%. Along with this vision, we provide studies that would support e-trade, as well as we open the door to technologies such as blockchain. Blockchain is going to provide various advantages for e-commerce. E-commerce platforms based on blockchain will make it possible to run trade activities without the need for intermediaries. Therefore, it will be a possibility to create markets without a headquarters. Actually, it will also make sure a safe storage and management of data will contribute to confidentiality, reducing the risks for data violations, protecting users. Safe and machine-to-machine procedures will be possible quite swiftly, reducing the needs for intermediaries, lowering procedure costs. The traceability and transparency of blockchain contributes to improvement of supply chains, making possible for a cost-efficient production. blockchain-based reward systems will make an attraction for loyalty and participation of customers, improving their satisfaction and also guiding for repeated business. In the second phase of the project, a proof of concept study was created showing that thanks to smart contracts, dependency on intermediary actors will be lowered. This way, it will be possible to have a 30% of cost reduction within the simplification process of customs clearance. Thanks to improvement options within the project, the costs automatically will be reduced. Next to it, our proof of concept has already shown us the fact that repeated data sharing will no longer be a requisite. This will contribute to hard copy reduction and will also improve collaboration amongst parties, fastening of the processes by way of smart contracts, thereby strengthening data traceability. These are only a few of the benefits to be provided by the blockchain technology, as will be elaborated by the experts during their presentations. I will not take your time any further. Ladies and gentlemen, actually, this event is not considered as a closing event. On the contrary, the positive outputs of the project will make the basis for the future activities that will be taken by the counterparts. And hopefully, in the period to come, also thanks to the support of our international stakeholders, we want to contribute and continue our works within this framework. Ladies and gentlemen, concluding my remarks here, I wish for the success of the project for our country and for our foreign trade, and would like to take the opportunity of acknowledging all parties having contributed to the organization of the event, running of the project, and once again would like to express my deepest regards to each and every one of you. Thank you.
Bu projenin gerçekleşmesini sağlayan üç kurumumuzun Hazine ve Maliye
Three authorities, Ministry of Treasury and Finance, EBRD, and Ministry of Trade, are the authorities having contributed to the project. So I'd like to invite to the floor all the representatives for a family photo.
değerli konuklar.
Ladies and gentlemen, now I would like to invite our project coordinator to the floor. Ümmü Gülsüm Özalp will be making the closing remarks of the project.
Kıymetli misafirlerim,
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome you all to the second phase closing event of the design of end-to-end export process via blockchain technology project. Since the very beginning, which is December 2021, we have tried to update you by way of live broadcasts and social media postings. But maybe there are those participants who are with us today who will be attending the event for the first time, so I would like to invite you some of the basics about the project. Our project is run jointly by the Ministry of Trade and EBRD, as well as the Ministry of Treasury and Finance. And the aim is to measure up the blockchain technology on international processes. Proof of concepts is just provided by ways of studies, particularly in software development. We are running a measurement and scaling of any particular technology on a concept or any procedure. In this respect, we try and understand how much we can improve and shorten export processes by way of blockchain technology. The authority who will be using the outputs of the project, hopefully, will be implementing this technology in the trade activities. This is the Ministry of Trade, of course. EBRD is providing us some support, but in terms of implementing the two of the proofs of concept, Ministry of Treasury and Finance provided funds. Actually, we have heard Mr. Director General speaking about the background of the project, but I'd like to get into some details. In the first phase of the project, we looked into conventional customs clearance procedures. We chose electrical bicycle as a product, and from Turkey to Europe, land exports and were assessed. The procedures run within Turkey and the stakeholders in Turkey were involved. In this respect, we looked into the ecosystem and we also involved public and private participants, about 10 of them were involved and identified for the purposes of the project. In July 2022, with the conclusion of the project, we held a meeting, as you would remember, sharing our outputs with you in Ankara. Although we had more than one output, the most striking ones were a 40% reduction in operational business flow. At the same time, by way of blockchain and complementary technologies, we could only achieve procedures by data, and it would be possible for us to have a paperless trade. At the same time, by using smart contracts, it was possible to avoid use of intermediaries. In July, we closed off the first phase. Right after that, we've started the second phase. In the second phase, on the contrary to the first one, we've looked into simplified customs declaration processes. And Colon was chosen as the product, and we've looked into the processes of the export from Turkey to Europe. Actually, we've looked into the desires of all stakeholders in the trade business for simplification, particularly. Ministry of Trade by 2030 would expect the share of 10% in e-commerce in all of our trade procedures. This is a target by the ministry. So running activities in this respect, we need to look into digitalization that is brought by blockchain technology, calculating its impact in the acceleration of the procedures. In July, right before the official startup of the second phase, we made a preliminary analysis. Also, we've involved customs consultants, service providers, and fast cargo operators. As a result of this talks, we've identified other stakeholders within the ecosystem. At the same time, trade data protection and protection of personalized data, as well as the ID recognition and entry of IDs of our stakeholders in the system were considered as a requirement in simplified customs procedures. We've designed a network for a controlled participation. We decided to go through a special design blockchain. This network of blockchain was supported by smart contracts as a part of our decision. While implementing the project, there were a few steps essentially we followed, such as the process analysis, design of processes by blockchain technology, legislation compliance, and proof of concept. In terms of the process analysis, we made one-to-one interviews with the identified stakeholders. As a result, if and when needed, we visited them in their working site and we had the opportunity of observing their activities on site. As a result of that, analysis of operational processes was put forth, running some business flows in this respect. Also, we tried to look into the challenges that our stakeholders faced, putting forth the bottlenecks in the system. After this process, it was time to design the processes by blockchain technology. Structuring the processes by blockchain technology, on the other hand, we tried and looked into whether there were other parties we could use, what the potential complementary technologies would be. So, as much as possible, digital complementary technologies were involved in the process, restructuring the process from scratch, making an operational look. Actually, recognition and recreation of the process completed, so it was time to look into the differences with the current system. Actually, once we completed the process analysis procedures, we did not jump into improvement phase. Probably you would know better than I do, which is legislation compliance. In anything that we do, we must comply with the legislation, making sure that all the laws and regulations are respected. Or maybe as an advantage of this particular project, we can look into any legislative amendment and notify the related authorities to take the necessary actions. In this respect, together with the activities that we were running, we also compared the existing flow with the redesigned flow, also identifying all the deficiencies, if any. We've notified the Ministry of Trade anything that needs to be changed, amended, or updated, or if there is any legislation that needs to be amended according to the current situation. We notified the relevant authorities. Doing all of this, we took help from our law consultants as well as customs consultants. We have looked into the recreated steps of the way with their contribution, agreeing and talking to business units their doability. Once all stakeholders agreed upon the processes, we started software development. In this respect, our activities were proof of concept design, particularly concentrated on a governance project for the stakeholders, making sure that the relationship of the stakeholders were informed about the technologies they need to use. Software development needs were identified, and so as to run the operational processes, we've completed this work. Once we are done with this improvement, simplified customs declaration processes were used to run several scenarios so that the findings could be assessed and the outputs can be analyzed. Actually, the outputs, although are relevant to more than one field, in general terms, they broadly contribute to operational acceleration and fine-tuning of the operations. In this respect, any operational process was taken from 7 steps to 45, contributing to almost to a 35% of the process. And this is only the improvement of blockchain technology locally. Absolutely, we would expect further improvement once the processes are designed in consideration of international steps. Avoiding printed documents and payment by authorities conducted by smart contracts, which mean they're automatically triggered, will contribute to this reduction. Manual transactions are avoided. Smart contracts do replace such transactions now.
Besides, of course, as you all know, another important point about the blockchain is supporting paper-free commerce. Why? Because as you all know, digitalization can possibly be performed with several different tools, but with transparency and having all the stakeholders via the blockchain technology, what you can do is all the stakeholders in the ecosystem can be included in the blockchain technology. And therefore, blockchain technology is serving for the purpose of document and paper-free trade. For example, certificate of origin, one of the documents, a special issuance, approval, authorization, and sharing with the relevant stakeholders is something done only with the blockchain technology. And it's possible to do it only once. Besides, of course, we have one-to-one interviews with our stakeholders. And almost from all industries, there's one problem that they all share. There is one information in hand, and with the authorities that they are working together, they are sharing this information several times. For example, while sending an information through email to one authority, via telephone to another. But once there is a system integration, it is possible to send it in an integrated manner. And therefore, this is risking the security of the data. And at the same time, it's actually a huge burden on the shoulder of those who are doing trade. But with the use of the blockchain technology, as all the stakeholders are at the same platform, once you write the data and once you authorize this data sharing on the network, therefore the data sharing is transferred to the blockchain technology. Therefore, you prevent data sharing over different platforms to simplify the process. At the same time, the information, the data is transferred to the right authority at the right time. Also in the ecosystem, with the interviews together with the stakeholders, another issue is especially you have to identify your supplier. Once we actually have receivers in this ecosystem, for example, in the blockchain, once you define all your stakeholders for your supplier, whoever the suppliers of your supplier, if, for example, they provide service from different stakeholders, you can have direct access to it. Even you actually can possibly work directly with them over the system. For example, logistics for one stakeholder. Maybe, for example, a stakeholder for customs clearance, you actually don't have to do any transaction with them. So it's much better to make any selection. Now, having all the stakeholders in the same ecosystem at the same time helps us to prevent any mutual relations, bilateral. For example, I told you due to data sharing, there is actually the need for cross-talk between different agencies. But this time, since this is no more the case, and since reading and writing the data, document sharing, data sharing, once everything is in the same platform, there is no need to have any bilateral talk in between the two. For example, if as you are using an authorized special network for the procedures or all the processes in the country, in Turkey, for example, if you have 10 different stakeholders that you are being exposed to, as they're working at the same platform, everything is shared from there. Of course, transparency, optimization, data sharing, having security, and defining all the parties and in the legal manner and doing everything for the start of the process helps us for creating a safe trade environment. And once some of the digitalization tools fail, they can be replaced with the others, and it gives you the power to do so. So these are the gains via the operational processes. But of course, another, this is just one of the strengths of our project, as mentioned in his talk, EBRD, in particular for the disadvantaged group, is important, especially for equality of for opportunities. Therefore, the vulnerable groups and disadvantaged groups are included. We know about the sensitivity of the bank, and by considering into this, while designing the project, we consider what we can do to have a better social impact. Now, with the blockchain infrastructure, you actually have moved to a platform where you know all your stakeholders. For example, for some of the stakeholders who are actually doing something against the public, you can easily identify them. As the data must be written in the blockchain via the source, not possible to make counterfeiting over the data, and therefore there is actually full supervision of the public over the processes. By this way, not only from the international perspective, but at the same time, we can possibly do it within the country. For example, any product that's against public health cannot be circulated within the country. And of course, with digitalization, there is also the equal opportunity. As blockchain technology shortens the processes, of course, we don't have any net assessment and a net prediction at the international level, but we know that there will be a huge reduction at cost. Why? Because there's less use of HR, more use of digital sources. Therefore, the companies can possibly better and more efficiently manage their resources. So the enterprises at the same time, so as to start any trade, they will need less cost. Therefore, in particular, small enterprises can possibly use the blockchain technology and accelerate their process. For example, small-scale enterprises in particular will be much more encouraged to do trade. And this also will provide for equal opportunities for all. From the social perspective, of course, we wish that there will be totally paper-free processes, but blockchain technology is actually digital innovation. Why? Because you design end-to-end what you're doing. It is not only good for paper-free trade, but there are too many issues brought with the digital innovation. So the trade activities can be much more sustainable, as there's actually no more use of papers, and at the same time, less cost for the use of the other resources. It means that the trade activities can be actually much more sustainable by this way. Now, up to now, looking, I've just mentioned about the project outputs, the deliverables that we have, what actually the gains that we get out of the project, of course, depending on the volume of the processes that we have. But of course, for the future, what we should do, so as to sustain the benefits of this project, I will go through this as a policy recommendation. Now, first of all, with regards compliance with the legislation, there are a couple of things I would like to underline. Now, except for the outputs that we have, especially once international steps are taken, especially there's actually a huge responsibility for the legislation. Why? Not only for our country, but looking at the other agencies, the legislation must be updated from this perspective. By saying this or revising the legislation, it is not only about considering the technology in hand, but it also requires collaboration with the stakeholders. Therefore, about use of technology in trade, for example, from the R&D centers, or from some of the private institutions, or for example, from the IT departments of the public agencies, all the experts should collaborate and should be a part of this process in making legislation. Therefore, the experts can work together with the software developers and can decide how technology can initially be included in this process. For example, AI, blockchain technology, or the Internet of Things, for example. While making changes to the legislation, we will not lose time. If we possibly can do it initially and include everyone in this process, it will accelerate the process. Besides legislation, I think another issue which also requires the involvement of the public and the private together is that for e-commerce, together with the institutions that offer platform services, when we are working together with them, the exporters should identify and define themselves as a foreign trade. and they have to deal with too many documents and paperwork. So I think the relevant agencies should maybe take some action. I don't know, it could be through the Ministry of Trade, or it could be some of the other institutions deemed appropriate by them. There is the need for an identity management platform so our exporters can have faster access to export. Therefore, identity management is a critical topic to consider. Once we actually overcome this issue, I believe that it will be much faster for the foreign trade activities as well. Now, after this identity management, another issue I would like to say is some of the activities that we had with regards data. Once there is a structured data of the institutions, or it could be unstructured, but they share some data. And this structure is out of standard. In particular, for example, in blockchain, there are some of the data models, and they have to be internationally accepted, the data models. And these data models should be eligible for use by the other international institutions. So, for example, blockchain technology, in the projects where we'll be using the blockchain technology, before the start of the work with, for example, World Customs Organization, World Trade Organization, there are certain data models that they use, and these are trying to manage in general foreign trade. So it's nice to collaborate with them. So the structure that we design will not only be limited to the national use, but at the same time, it will be a model that's also internationally accepted. At the very first phase of the project, I told you that we considered the conventional export, and then in the second, the simplified customs declaration, and we selected some commodities and some selected destinations. Now, for the actual use of the blockchain technology, and for all the foreign trade activities, there is the need to make a preliminary analysis, which will be very useful. By this way, with this preliminary analysis, if there are issues that are out of the context of the project that we have, we can possibly identify the other stakeholders in this process, so we also will include them, and we can do this together. And lastly, as a result of the proof of concept activities that we did, blockchain technology is really very useful for the export processes. And the blockchain technology in both of the proof of concept activities, there is a 25% of a reduction in the timeline, and it allows for the optimum and highest use of the digitalization. In the upcoming process, once we have all these data models about, for example, the identity management, and once the legislative framework is completed, then there will be an actual international integration, which will be via a pilot project, and therefore the process improvements, the cost improvements of the blockchain technology would be much more clear. Hopefully, in the upcoming processes of this project, both for the public agencies and our private stakeholders, and of course for all other stakeholders where trade is touching upon, it will be very useful. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much. Please do stay, because there will be some questions.
Buyurunuz efendim. Salon soru cevabı açıktır.
And now the floor is ready to get questions. And after the meeting, we will have an experience desk outside the hall where you will be able to experience everything uttered during the meeting. Everything must be crystal clear so we don't get any question from our audience. And thank you, ma'am. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the kickoff of every project is unique, with the feeling of excitement. But during the closing meeting, nostalgia takes place. We've made a lot of friendships in the course of the project that we have intensively worked with, and we owe everything an acknowledgement and a thank you from the deepest corner of our hearts. Mr. Hasan Önal, our department director, and the employees of our Ministry of Trade, and on the side of EBRD, Mrs. Gamze and her team. And I know that people have been watching us. The other stakeholders of the project have been there, always online. We kept asking questions to them. They were patient enough to answer us with very detailed replies. And at the same time, they've provided us their best practices, contributing to the success of the project. And we're thankful to each and every one of them for this contribution and their time. Ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the end of the meeting, and you're all welcomed at the experience desk right outside the hall. All the technical infrastructure that we have covered during the meeting will be experienced online. Thank you.